My name is David Williams. I'm a senior designer here at Red 5 Studios. We're here at Gamescom 2013 talking about Firefall.
So tell us a little bit about the world of Firefall.
Well, the world of Firefall is actually Earth itself, but it's 300 years in the future, and it's been transformed by an event that we call the melding, which is an energy storm that has covered the entire Earth except for a small area around Fortaleza, Brazil. And so when Firefall first released to closed beta about a year and a half ago, that was the only space that the players had to play in, was this little area around Fortaleza. But over the last few months, new melding pockets have appeared. These are new playable areas that the players can explore in different areas on Earth. And over the next few months, the players are going to be able to push back the melding in those areas and start to recapture more of the world.
So you've mentioned the melding. Can you tell us anything about the Chosen and their reason for actually fighting us?
Well, the Chosen are still very mysterious to the players, and the Chosen are a race that has come out of the melding and is attacking the players, all the major towns, and is clearly trying to wipe humanity off the map and finish the job that the melding started. Whether the Chosen are manifestations of the melding or actually humans that have been transformed by the melding hasn't yet been determined by those surviving players and surviving humans on Earth.
So describe a little bit about the Firefall gaming experience, for those who haven't played it yet.
Well, Firefall is a game that is all about big action. There's a big, large open world where the players can cooperatively run around, and they can jetpack through the air, doing missions and fighting creatures and gathering resources. Firefall is both a squad-based and a skill-based and a class-based game. And it's squad-based because it's actually the most fun when you're playing with your friends. It's skill-based because there are no dice being rolled in the background of the game. Your skill matters. You have to put your crosshairs on the enemy and pull the trigger. There's no dice being rolled to see whether you hit or dice being rolled to see how much damage it does. Your damage is based on what type of weapons you're using, what type of abilities you're using, especially what kind of weapons and abilities that you've crafted in the manufacturing system through our crafting system. And then it goes to your skill, whether you put your crosshairs on the guy and put a bullet through his brain pad.
So recently there have been a lot of problems with the SYN network in terms of lag. However, the game itself seems to keep running fine. Would you care to comment on this?
Absolutely. Look, when any game starts growing the number of players, one of the first things you're trying to do is you're going to have these growing pains. There are going to be things that are happening to your servers that you couldn't anticipate that were not problems when you had small numbers of players that become problems when you have big numbers of players. And like you said, fortunately, we've managed to avoid the worst ones. We don't have servers crashing constantly. We don't have big rubber banding except during some of the most crowded events. And so like I said, we were able to avoid most of them, but we know that there have been problems. We're not trying to sugarcoat and pretend there weren't. But really, that's been our goal in this first stage of the open beta, is finding those problems and eradicating them. The patch that just went out this week, we think, and we're pretty sure, has actually beat down the two biggest bugs we've had. The first with login issues, and the second with the items database, which is your inventory and the Battleframe garage, and having to wait, the SYN network, having to wait until you see your items finally appear. We were putting such amazing stress on the servers that we actually found some core issues with the server code at a kernel level that had never been found before, and so we had to completely rewrite our entire inventory system to support and to get around some of those issues. But hopefully when people log in now, they're going to see an inventory system that's somewhere between 10 and 15 times faster than it was last week.
Something that several players usually come into MMOs instantly asking is about the endgame. Would you like to comment on that as far as Firefall goes?
I wouldn't say Firefall really has a traditional end game. It's a game that is like constantly evolving. We're constantly adding new areas and new things to do, new things to chase. And then one of the big things that we're really talking about here at the show is this next stage of the open beta, which we call Reclaim the Earth, Unlock the World. And it's all about the players getting together, organizing, and creating new permanent melding repulsors that will push back the melding in these melding pockets, open up new content for the players to access. And inside of those areas, however, is the Chosen. So this war between the humans and the Chosen, which has been so one-sided for the entire beta, is now going to be a two-sided war, and the players will finally be able to fight back against the Chosen and actually start to reclaim the Earth. And so for the players that have been, progressing their Battleframes and looking for starting to look for new things to do, will suddenly have this really big, epic goals that they can be going after to be the guys who are driving this reclaiming of the Earth, and whether that's donating resources and components to build these, the repulsors, these permanent repulsors, or fighting the Chosen on their home territory, you'll now have these big, epic goals to be going after.
In the past, it has been mentioned that pushing the melding back, just like you said, was going to be something like an Entourage event. Would you care to elaborate on that, particularly on the permanent changes that the melding will...
Yeah, so the permanent changes that we're talking about, when you're building one of these permanent repulsors, we want this to be something that players are recognized for their, for the work and the effort that they put in. So each one of these repulsors, we're going to be tracking, we're going to have a leaderboard for all of the effort that the players are putting in, whether it's resources or components or time and effort. All of these things are going to be tracked in a leaderboard, and that's going to show the top players and the top armies and their contributions to this effort. And when the repulsor is finished being built, that leaderboard gets locked into place. And so permanently, for the lifetime of Firefall, those players and those armies are going to be recognized as the people and armies that contributed and made sure that this happened and this section of the Earth was reclaimed for the players.
Are there any plans to implement a group finder feature, like say to do something like Diamond Head and eventually Blackwater, I forget the name, Blackwater Anomaly?
Blackwater Anomaly, yeah. Group finding is definitely something that we know we need to be adding. It's not at the very top of our list right now, but it's probably in that second tier right behind some of the things that we're actively working on. We know we need better group finding so people can get together easily to do some of these instances. It's really sort of the same technology that that we'll be using for our PvP matchmaking as well. So it's all sort of tied together, but that's definitely one of the features we're going to be actively working on over the next few months. It's not in this month's current milestone, but it's really up at the top of our queue of things that we want to add to Firefall.
One of your features that has somewhat of a polarizing effect on new players is the fact that gear decays permanently. Would you care to explain why you chose to implement this?
Yeah, one of the things we don't want to have in Firefall is an economy where items stay forever. And so that's why the decay system was implemented. The problem with items that stay forever is that players lose the incentive to ever have to go and upgrade their gear or find new gear ever again. You can get to a point where you're done and you're literally finished and you never have to ever find any new things ever again. We didn't want to get to that point because not only does it mean that you would be done and you'd have nothing to chase and no more goals, but it also creates massive inflation inside of MMO economies when items are never being removed from the economy. So to prevent that massive inflation and to make sure that the player always had new goals and always had new things he could be chasing after, that's why we implemented the system where the items will eventually decay over time.
So there is no going back on gear decay, basically?
No, we don't have any plans to, at the moment at least, revisit that decision. As I think we do enjoy talking to our players and going back and forth and having discussions about various aspects and design decisions in the game. But right now, we've actually seen the results we wanted to see in terms of the economy, making sure that there wasn't massive inflation, making sure that players constantly had things to chase after. There are aspects of the decay system that we are going to be looking at and changing over time, but actually whether or not there will be one, right now at least, we're pretty happy with it.
Would you care to tell us about any new Battleframe in the works?
Well, we're actually really we're really happy to announce a new Battleframe here at Gamescom. It's going to be available starting next week. It's called the Arsenal Battleframe. This is an advanced variant of the Dreadnought frame, and the Arsenal is all about his big weapons. And so just like the other Dreadnoughts, he's got a heavy machine gun that he uses as his primary weapon, but his abilities are all based around changing that weapon into a different type of weapon. He's got one ability that will change it into a combat shotgun that will empty a clip of 7 rounds in less than 2 seconds. He's also got a large charge-up plasma cannon that will obliterate a big wide swath of enemies all at once. He can also launch himself up into the air with his vault ability, and then his HKM ability is actually a volley of missiles that pop up out of his backpack and launch towards the enemies. It's actually pretty cool.
Invasion events currently feel rather easy and sometimes even extremely laggy. What are your plans about that?
Well, a lot of the problems that we see with the invasions comes from the fact that right now we have a lot of players who are server jumping just to get to the invasions, and so anytime there's invasion, because the rewards are so high for the amount of effort, like you said, it's very easy sometimes. The reward to effort ratio is just completely out of whack, and so we've got some ideas about limitations on being able to switch servers, as well as some limitations on the rewards based on participation in these events. So if you're one of a few people who are holding back Sunken Harbor from a big wave of Chosen, you'll be getting those same huge rewards. But if there's a ton of people and you're just standing around, you won't really be getting those same rewards that you're seeing today. So we're actually gonna be coming at it from a couple different angles. We don't want to just prevent people from ever jumping servers, but we want to make it so that a player doesn't really feel like he always wants to jump a server to wherever there's an invasion, because that's just not good for the people who are jumping, because they get the lag fest, and it's also not good for the people who are there, and that's their server's invasion that they've been waiting for. It's no fun to have lots of people come in and create a lag fest.